Good afternoon, everybody. It's really nice to see you here today. I am joined by Lukas Mackevičius, who is a product owner and a great guy overall. I can say that. And we would like to talk with you today about efficient communication in a multicultural environment. And before we start, let's small talk for a little bit because we must wait for everyone to join us to not uh, take away anything from the people that are a little bit late. So, Lucas, maybe you tell a few words about you.
Yeah. So hey everyone, nice to see so many of you joining. And yeah, I'm a product owner working currently with the topics related to onboarding in a digital lending platform. But I previously have some experience in insurance or the public sector projects, some experience in the medical field and embedded software in medical devices. And yeah, happy to be here, happy to share my experiences, and hopefully we'll get a lot of engagement from you guys.
Great to hear that, and I hear that you are doing a lot of interesting and difficult things in your past, so it will be a lot of knowledge to share from your side.
Hopefully.
And yeah, I think I can trust you on that. And from the one more thing before we start, we are of course recording it, and the whole meetup will be available later to be replayed or share with your friends to watch it and share the knowledge about the product owners community and how to work as a product owner. So, Lucas, are you ready to start our
Yeah, let's do it.
rumble? Okay, so I have first question to you. Uh, you are working for a big companies,
Yeah.
like you said, and for that kind of companies with a lot of stakeholders here and there on one continent, on another continent, different time zones, how much of your time is communication?
Yeah. I think it's not even about the size of the company, it's more about the role of a product owner and your day-to-day tasks, because I feel that mostly everything that I do is communication. I just change the form. If you really think about it, like answering emails or initiating calls to keep the communication flowing between different stakeholders and the product team, that's like clearly communication, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about ordering backlog or other similar day-to-day duties of a product owner, that's still communication, just in another form.
It's true. It's really true. And as you said, product backlog, and we are talking about product owners, about agile ways of working.
Yeah.
The Scrum Guide says that the stakeholders should know how product work is going, which is the base of the agile ways of working. Because the product is made for stakeholders and it's important to
Yeah.
communicate with them. So, firstly, how do you identify who is the stakeholder of the product in these big companies?
Okay. So no, like in general, at least I spend a lot of time optimizing all of the software delivery processes, but the software that we produce is actually used to optimize all of the day-to-day business operations and their processes. And all the processes usually have people that own them or people that are using them. So that's, I feel, a good start checking who are your initial stakeholders. In different setups, in different companies, the key stakeholder might be considered the customer, and you need to keep them up to date and get all their feedback. In general, another good way to look at it is to check who in the company will get their bonus if some process starts to work better or is optimized. And usually you will not only know the stakeholder, but the most engaged stakeholder.
It's true. It's like always look where the money flows and
Yeah.
what people can bring for themselves from it. Yeah, it sounds really good and important. Okay. do you have maybe any techniques or ways of finding who is the real stakeholder, or maybe organization has some tools that they are supporting this?
Right. So, well, initially, usually the key stakeholder is the person asking for some change in their systems. But in addition to that, it used to be a huge thing previously in the companies that I joined to check and memorize the organizational structure of the company. So, you get to know all these stakeholders, at least on paper, you see their faces, names. But those charts used to get outdated really, really fast.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure since when this happened, but actually Outlook in the contact cards for people that you have in contacts, they show the whole organizational structure above and below a specific person. So I really like looking for stakeholders or people who can have good inputs in general using that Outlook feature.
Sure. It sounds really nice to use just the organization tools that you have. And I have one small follow-up question to this. Sometimes a stakeholder can be also different team that is dependent on your team works, or just want to see your feature, or maybe will be using it later. Do you also communicate with them, or the developers are communicating between each other? How it is going in your team?
Well, currently, I just align with other teams on when we plan to do something, and then developers fill in the details. But I've worked in different setups where product owners have to communicate basically everything to external teams. And I couldn't say which approach is better. I feel like this is mostly of how the team likes to work and how the people prefer to do it. Probably it's more efficient if developers talk together. As you know, they don't have to have a medium like me who doesn't know that much about development. So it makes it fluent. But with some people, yeah, they just prefer to have a medium.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you are saying, that if we are bringing another person to the conversation, we may lose something. And it is important to sometimes keep the communication direct to avoid just missing information or making them wrong.
Yeah.
And we talked about stakeholders, about business stakeholders of the product, about the customers, about the different teams. So there is a lot of people that are interested in the product. Are they all equal? Or they sometimes someone is more important or less important to the product?
Yeah. Well, if all the stakeholders are equal, not all of them should have an equal impact on the product. What I try to do is, at least in my experience, all the stakeholders together, they will generate way more ideas than a team can deliver in a set period of time. So it's good to try and check the outcomes of changes made by specific stakeholder requests. Apart from building a business case before starting to develop something, it's always important to check afterwards if we got the estimated benefits. And based on that, it's really easy to understand who should be allowed to have the most influence on a product, and who should be politely informed that their requests might come a bit later.
Yes, so it's all come back to the money business.
Yeah.
We are counting money, we are counting how much money it will bring to us and how much effort it will take to bring that kind of money.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question to you. So what do you think is important during talks with stakeholders, and how you manage different cultures and time zones? Do you try to gather them all together or try to speak to them one by one?
It depends on the goal that we are trying to achieve. At least currently, I'm working with teams from Australia and Mexico, sometimes on the same day, but it's rarely that the things we are working on are common for both of the teams from those markets. It's usually, you're doing something for one market, something for another, or you can think about it as different teams. So it's rarely that I need to handle these cultural differences. I had experiences where we had developers from India and stakeholders from USA.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a different story, but then it wasn't up to me to handle. But in general, my recommendation for handling cultural differences would be to not blindly follow the stereotypes, but at the same time acknowledge that such a thing as an office culture exists. Each company has their values stated on their websites, which they try to instill to their employees. But from my experiences, if those employees are working in different offices, they will have differences because, at least I think that people tend to hire people similar to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my advice would be to, really get to know a person from one team or one group of stakeholders. And then you can kind of see how the whole team is acting, what are their goals, what motivates them, because they most likely, if in a healthy company, they will be trying to achieve the same things.
Yeah.
So if you just know what are their goals, there's not much left to handle.
Okay, so to sum it up a little bit, maybe. So firstly, do not look at stereotypes. They are mostly wrong, and they can cause you some bias before you start talking with people.
For a stereotype to become popular, I think a prerequisite is for it to be funny. Because if it's not funny, it's not gonna catch on.
Yeah.
So yeah, most of the stereotypes are just made to have fun, and they're not. They shouldn't be followed 100%. Although
Yeah.
there are cultural differences. Like I'm working with teams. They're like all the people from the group are the calmest people possible. They will never lash out. They will always be polite. But at the same time, I've worked with teams where the whole team is really eccentric and outgoing, and they always want to be the ones to have the last word. So you need to feel kind of like the teams or the office's culture instead of stereotypes.
Yeah, and I think it is important what you say about the office culture, about the company's values, that the culture differences are one thing, but the companies try to align his own culture and work inside of it to easier the communication, let's say.
Yeah.
That's what we are talking about, and to make it just easier for their employees to follow one set of values and not different from their culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really good. So I have another one for you. There will be a lot of them. Be prepared. So what if stakeholders have a conflict of interest? Have you ever had a situation like this?
Yeah, I have. I mean, look, this can happen in a couple of ways. It's either we have failed at setting goals that align with each other, or we are not following our goals. That's the short part of it. The long part of it would be we should always check why we have differences of opinion, and maybe we are going towards the same goal. We just feel that different paths lead to it quicker, right? And in that case, you should always try and bring some metrics, estimate how much effort something is, estimate how much benefit it will be. Basically, again, build a business case, and then it will be really clear. In some cases, like when some people are striving for some personal goals instead of following the company's goals, then again, I feel that this is a problem for the company, and it shouldn't be solved just on the product owner level. It should be a deeper discussion why we are not following what we agreed to follow. or maybe maybe there was just some recent change and people are not on the same page just yet, so it will solve itself out in a day.
Okay, so what you are saying, this communication on the level of corporation is really important, that the company is firstly making them their goals for all employees that are aligned to the one common, let's say, product goal using Scrum nomenclature. And they should have the same vision in mind and following the same guidelines, let's say. And the second thing that you told us is communication on company level. It's like you cannot do everything as a product owner. You should have also given tools from company, how the processes are looking like, with whom you should communicate and how.
I feel, I was thinking recently about this, and I found that in 3 out of 4 companies I worked in, we had not the same issue. I'm gonna really make it abstract.
Okay.
But in a lot of cases that I saw and heard from my friends, we are working in environments where the IT side of the company is supposed to maximize the output of the company, while having stakeholders like head architect or CTO, one of their goals is to keep the system up and running, easy to support, remove technical debt, and similar things. While the business side of the company, they usually have one specific process that they are responsible for. And like when I say one, I'm talking really broadly, like collections or onboarding. And they want their specific part of the company to shine and be the best. But what if we don't see any good opportunities in one of these departments or markets, and we see a lot of opportunities in another? I feel that such environments kind of have it programmed in themselves that we would have differences in opinion between different stakeholders. And but again, this is something really high level that I don't think should be solved by each product owner. Just maybe the most common example I could think of.
Okay, it's like we are going to this, I think, back again. Companies should have vision, what they should do, and align in different even branches of the same company. They should know what they are working on and what is the expected result of this. Okay, but we are talking a lot about the big picture, about communicating with business stakeholders on the higher level. What about the Scrum team? Are the Scrum Master and developers helping you with communication with the business? Are you, let's say, allowing them to talk with the business stakeholders? Or maybe are you trying to keep them a little bit away of this communication? And if yes, why?
In different times, I've been, on the complete opposite sides of that. My first idea, when I was in my first company, I had a really good line manager, and he was always really protective of the team. Nothing. The team can know that the project is late, and we are getting, in trouble with external partners and stakeholders, but that would never come to the team. And I felt like it's a really good quality, and I wanted to, do that myself. But the only way to see how I can see this happening is to completely shut down the communication between developers and business, which brings you, to a different problem. How can developers provide meaningful impact in discussions how we can achieve our goals in multiple different ways, and what solution would be faster, quicker, easier if they are not in those conversations? I'm not going to be able to express everything that the business could express and then communicate back everything that the developers were saying. So then I eased off, and especially at the starts of the projects, I really want business to get to know the developers and vice versa, so they would have a clear, open channel of communication. But then, like if requirements change or something like that, then there can some interpersonal disagreements can happen and similar things. So you always have to know what your team prefers and, keep the team informed. Like if you talk to people directly, you can start getting requests directly, it's just 5 minutes. Check for me this on the database. And then you spend 2 hours analyzing what went wrong, even though it's not part of your sprint goal. So yeah, it's like the key is to, I think, monitor these communications and always check if people still feel comfortable with doing that. And if people are comfortable, yeah, it's beneficial.
I really like what you said. It's like from your experience, like you moved from this waterfall line manager environment with 100% block communication to the modern one, and you come to the conclusion from Agile Manifesto by yourself that the business and the developers should work together because they will produce the best solution by working together. And I really also find important what you said later, that you must monitor the communication because business prefer to give the developer some direct task that will mess up the whole business plan and the whole iteration by itself. I have done things like that as a tester when someone approached me and it was like, Andrzej, some small easy task, it will take you 5 minutes, and I am then 8 hours later late on my regression and I don't want to live anymore. So I really appreciate things like that. Okay, so what, in your opinion, should be avoided when talking with stakeholders? Is there anything that you think that stakeholders shouldn't know about, or we should be really transparent, like Agile said?
Yeah, in general, when asked what we should avoid, the answer is really clear. It's, I think, ambiguity and interpretation. You need to always be sure that you were understood and always sure that you understood everyone correctly. No matter if, some questions might sound quite dumb after some time, like it's better to have 9 dumb questions than 1 question which wasn't asked and then it should have. But yeah, like I feel that it again depends on stakeholders. Like even some simple, I've been asked simple questions, like some stakeholder asks me, when could this be done? And the keyword is could. It's 5 days of work. It could be done next week, right? Are we going to do it for next week? Of course not. We have a long queue of more important things. So it's really important to be clear if you know that you are not going, or you are going to do it on a specific date, or you cannot achieve what was requested, and maybe then you can talk on other alternatives. And yeah, I feel that most of the time I'm not communicating clearly enough because sometimes I still get misunderstood. So I try to communicate as much as possible, but the key is to communicate clearly and always express if this is a fact or if this is an opinion.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like my own thing is to make always some bullet points or notes from the meetings and send to everyone faces like, this is what we were talking about, and this is what you must understand from this meeting. Not what you think, but this what is written here. And yeah, I think it's really important, exactly what you talk about estimations, efforts, and when the things will be done. Let's be transparent. Let's put the effort out when the business is asking, but set to them clearly, this is not the date that you will have it. This is just how much time we will produce this thing. We don't know where it will be in the queue. It depends on priorities and things like that. But still, it's good to be transparent.
Yeah, I didn't master yet the art of being understood, maybe, but I have a really good example of a problem I used to have when trying to understand people. This is coming back from my business analyst days. Even I've seen that whenever someone tells you that they want anything exactly like another thing, for example, you're working, on two APIs, and you're asked to just bring this feature from a different API to my API, right? What I've learned, you should always check if people fully understand what is the feature that they want exactly done, because it's usually, communicated on a change request name level, then there is tons of logic behind it. So I in communication with stakeholders, I'd really suggest you avoid just accepting requests, do something like X.
Yeah, and on the company level, when the branches are like stealing ideas one from another, it's a one thing.
Yeah.
Like my favorite thing is like when the let's say new stakeholder comes to company, or even new product owner is coming to company and saying to the developers, I have some nice feature in my previous company that I think it's really good, and we must implement it in the same way I have it in my last company, and it will take you 3 months, because it take 3 months my developers in previous company, so we have everything clear.
Yeah.
You will do it. And it's like
Yeah.
a common mistake. We have different system, we have different processes. It will not take the same time, and it will not give you the same impact. Let's analyze first.
Yeah, for sure. Always, be specific, and don't interpret, know it as a fact.
Exactly. Firstly talk, then do.
Yeah.
Okay, I have from my list of questions the last one, and then we'll move to the chat. But let's go with this last scripted one. Okay, so what do you think is the most important thing for keeping good relationship with the stakeholders? Like the one thing that we should remember after this webinar?
That's a good question. I feel like I have a good callback to, again, one of the previous companies I worked in. One of my teammates, he used to always avoid all the awkward situations. Like, he would always look like the best employee in the department, in the company, in the whatever. And I kept asking him, like, how do you do it? Like, why is it? It's like, it's okay, you can be brilliant, but you cannot be always the best in every cases. And he told me that, it's easy for me because when I was in school, I was going to drama lessons. And I didn't understand it at first, but it started to make so much sense for me after some time. Like, just imagine if you go to a theater, you have different actors playing different roles, right?
Yeah.
But then what is a company? It's a mixture of predefined roles interacting with each other according to achieve set up goals, right?
Yeah.
So it's really important to know everyone as a person, but at the same time, we should not forget that everyone is just acting a role to achieve their goals. And you can get some pretty deep connections if you know what the role is trying to achieve and get to know them personally.
It's true. Keeping the contacts really close, talking with people, just sometimes asking, how are you feeling today? Trying to get them to know better, and things like that are really, for me, a way for keeping people happy and understandable, let's say, and they are trying to also follow it in your direction. It's like when you're nice to them, they are nice to you, and it will just go back to you in profit in some time later.
Not only about profit, but in general, like, I used to be the guy on the call who was always with his camera off, silent, and in this position, I had to lead calls and do presentations, right? And if I have to, it's my job, I'll do it. But then when I became a product owner, I started to proactively try and initiate small talk, and I was doing it like again for the company, right? Like I need everyone to keep in touch, stay motivated, especially when COVID hit, you know. And I didn't even think that this would happen, but just by forcing myself to do small talk, I became really comfortable talking to some people and made some really good friends. So if there's one thing I'd like to recommend to everyone to, if it's tough for you to initiate small talk, just push through.
Yeah, and what you say about the camera and things like that, I was also in a similar situation when there was this unmotivated team in like our today environment of working online, and
Yeah.
everyone was with the camera off, and one of the people there started to come to every meeting with camera on, and 2 days later there were two persons with camera on, 3, 4, and
Yeah.
suddenly the whole team was with camera on just by following some examples, and they started to communicate better, because when you have this camera on, you are not doing more tasks, or you are at least trying to pretend that you are in the meeting and not following any other things that the people like to do during remote working.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see we have some questions in the chat, and I think a lot of them. Okay, so
really?
start going from the top. Lukas, this one from Menardi. Lukas, did you have any funny misunderstandings which were caused by different cultures or time zones?
The time zones, no. Time zones only made me have really long days or really short days. But happy or funny misunderstandings, it's not like a misunderstanding. Like it's now for me, it's really understandable. But then communicating with people from, let's say, South Europe, they always, at least the people I worked with, they like to start every conversation, meeting, everything from small talk. And like, I was in situations where, maybe we are a bit late, or, we just have half an hour time booked, and there's a lot of things to do. And I would just jump on the call and like, okay, hi everyone. So this and this and this and this. So I afterwards got some feedback how unfriendly and hard to talk to I am, because some people just don't feel comfortable jumping straight into business topics. So
yeah, you must warm them up a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, get them into the conversation, not just jump into it.
Yeah, into the zone. Okay, we have another from Victoria. Hi, Lukas. Has there been any situations where there is too many stakeholders or people providing their opinion, but it is not wanted? Any tips for uncomfortable situations?
In parallel to thinking about the questions to these answers, I can't help myself. I invited a lot of people I know to listen in on this, and in my mind, I'm just thinking like, which Victoria? Do I know her? Yeah, I mean, if you don't want input from someone, there's usually a reason, and if there's a reason, you can find a way to not include them. But in general, I rarely work with people on topics where their input would not be valuable. It's mostly, again, about people having different priorities or understandings. But if you are not able to find a common goal or a common path with someone, just turn to numbers. If you are talking ideas, you can, it's empirical. You can debate for however long you want. But if you have numbers, no one can debate those.
It's true. Okay, we have another one. As I said, a lot of them, so we'll use your knowledge.
Good, keep it coming.
Okay, so Lukas, how can I prepare for the call with someone I don't know for the first time to avoid any cultural foxpox? And this is from Tomasz.
Yeah. Uh, it's really hard, if it depends if it's a new person or if it's a new segment, team, new office, because calling back to our conversation previously, if you know someone from the office, like people tend to hire people that are similar to them. It's gonna not gonna be too different. Such a thing as office specific culture really exists. But that's context that you can think of. And if you have no context, just be the best you can. Don't do anything controversial. Try to listen. Try to express yourself really clearly. And icebreakers always help.
Yeah, it's true. And I think it's also connected to his funny history that you are talking about, that sometimes you never know how you should prepare, and this small talk thingy is the thing that you just learn after that. And I think my current company has a great idea about this, and it's come back to the company processes and company culture, that every new employee, because we are working as let's say two branches mainly, one from one country and second from another country. And when we are started working, we can enroll to the course that is teaching us about the culture of the second country, let's say. And they can enroll to learn about our culture. So the company is giving us knowledge to just understand another parts of the company.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good practice. Okay, we have more. This is not over yet.
Oh,
Next
really?
is, really. Next is from, I'm really sorry if I will misspell your name, but next one is from Saurnas. Lukas, what was the most challenging situation you had as a PO, and how did you handle it?
That's a tough one,
It's
the most
always a tough
challenging,
one.
like to choose just one. I feel that the biggest challenges is always to set up a working process in the team to which all the team members would be happy to use, because we are all different people. I've worked in teams of 6 people. I've worked in teams of 14 people, and you can imagine, like, it can be tough in a team with 14 people to find a common way of working. Like a good example would be something we solved actually together, Angie. Basically, remember the situation where we had problems with estimations?
Yeah.
And the team just wasn't feeling like it. We couldn't get a good approach. No literature that we found seemed to make sense according to what our team expected to have as a process. So Angie came up with a wonderful idea, like, what if we, instead of asking the team to estimate how big each task is, what if we focus on having each task around the same size, and then just measuring the velocity of each task that is around the
No
same size?
estimates. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the team was really happy that they didn't have to spend any more time on estimates, and we just transitioned this effort into analysis phase.
Okay. Yeah, and I think what you said is important, because then I was a Scrum Master and you had the help from the people that know about the processes. And what is really hurting product owners in a lot of companies is like, don't give them Scrum Master. Don't putting a Scrum Master in a Scrum team.
Yeah.
It's like you're missing process person. How would you like to work when you're missing the one that should help you with how are you working?
Yeah.
And it's really pain for a lot of places. Okay, but we still have some more questions, and we must keep it short because we are out of time box. So this will be the last one. it is from Koval. And as a PO, did you ever met with the situation when lack of motivation in the team totally destroy process? What is your way of handling it, apart from finding out reason, for example?
Okay. I don't feel that motivation can break the process. It might be, that low motivation is the outcome of a bad process. But then, the process should be broken because of different, like, it's, the chicken and the egg. Like, is the motivation low because of the process, or is the process breaking because of motivation? In my experience, at least in a Scrum environment, Scrum and Kanban, most of these, have the same ceremonies. You have time slots in the calendar where the whole team can talk about how they feel and how they want to work. And it's only hard to find something that the whole team is comfortable with. If the people in the team are okay with, doing something which is beneficial, but maybe they are too shy to do, or some other personal attribute of them is they feel is keeping them back. A common thing is like, as I'm working internationally, a lot of people think that their English is really bad, and it's not their English that is blocking them, but the lack of confidence. Because I can understand them, maybe the vocabulary isn't the biggest, but it's quite easy to talk in English in general. You just need to be self-confident. And
It's an
I lost
easy
my train of
language.
thought.
It happens sometime. Really. Yeah, but I like what you said about the most of Agile's ways of working has some things that support us in measuring how team feels and trying to help them. It's like retrospective, and you have this all feedback loops, and you should just listen to your people and just give them opportunity to help themselves to get rid of wrongly working process, to expand on maybe some another field, or just to listen to what they are saying.
Yeah, this brings back the Bear Grylls meme to my mind. Improvise, adapt, overcome.
Yeah, it's true. It's this empirical process that we would like to follow in an agile way of working.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, and as a Scrum Master, I must say the time box is really over. And if you have any more questions, there is our contact mail just below the movie. Just below our webinar. You can write to us. We'll be glad to answer your questions during email, and of course during the next webinar that will taking place. And thank you, Lukas, for today. It was really nice to have you here to talk a little bit, as we are not working anymore together. So it's really nice to meet again. And just thank you for this webinar, and thanks to of the people that are watching us. And you see, I have some problems with English, but I'm talking with Lukas. So guys, just start talking in English and everything will be fine.
Yeah. And from my side, thanks, Anji, for moderating this. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, everyone, for joining in. I hope you liked it and you'll come back later on. Please like us, please follow us to see future events.
Yeah, of course.
And I hope to talk with you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.